Hello and welcome to Mad About Sports for yet another video. And this time we are back with a football video. It's an anticipated one because a club in England, a club in London is not doing well. We've done quite a few videos on Chelsea and their transfer signings, but it's about time we do a video on Graham Potter, but has been sacked by the Chelsea management overnight after their loss to Aston Villa. It's been a tough time for Chelsea in the Premier League. If you look at it, it's not been the best of starts. They had Thomas Tuchel to start off with. They had to sack him because of his non-good relationship with possibly Todd Bowley. We did not know what exactly went wrong behind the doors. So that was the first manager they had to sack. And later on, they appointed Graham Potter from Brighton, who they expected to continue the reins of Thomas Tuchel's good work, but they just not go well for Graham Potter, as he's the second manager for Chelsea to be sacked in a span of the season. And for now, in Premier League alone, it's the highest ever sacking which has happened. There have been 12 managers who have been sacked in Premier League. It's a record for Premier League alone. One can say this is not the most ideal thing for all Premier League clubs because everybody wants results, and that's one of the results you are. That's one of the results why you're seeing a lot of managers being sacked this season. Now, when you're talking about Graham Potter, had a phenomenal season with Brighton with a management project where he got a lot of youngsters. You talk on McAllister, you talk about Cucurella, you talk about Casado. He had a fantastic team there, and he went on to get results as well. Now, one of the games to remember was the game against United at the start of the season, where he absolutely triumphed over United with that squad. You always felt like Graham Potter's system was all about a build-up play, about playing with a lot more possession, and also maintaining a high press as well, which a good manager's trait is. And Brighton was very impressive in the recent past. If you look in the last couple of years, one of the most exciting teams to watch in the English Premier League was Brighton of Albion. But what really happened when he joined Chelsea? Is it the expectation which bowed down on him, or is it just that he did not have enough players to work with? Let's look at the transfer window signings of Chelsea because that tells the story of the number of players and the amount of money they spent. If you look at the transfer window signings of Chelsea, they spent a high amount of money of 323 million point three. Now, as we already did a video on how they are doing the amortization, about how they have given them all long contracts in terms of not letting one window in itself to spend a lot of money, which means they have amortized the money, which means they'll be spending these money over a period of 8 years. So on the books of account, you would have only spent close to 8 million in a year for some of these players as well. Now, you've got players like Joao Felix, who was bought in on loan from Atletico Madrid. David Fofana, Andre Santos, a youngster again, possibly next big thing in midfield. They are looking him to be the next replacement for N'Golo Kante. Malo Gusto was supposed to join them at the start of the next season. Noni Madueke, and he's been a phenomenal player. A good winger coming from PSV Eindhoven. Then you talk about Benoit Badiashile, one of the best ball-playing centre-backs and a youngster out there. Mikhailo Mudryk from Shakhtar, and Enzo Fernandez, which is a record-breaking signing for the Chelsea Football Club. It was a wonderful signing as well. Now, did Graham Potter get the players he wanted, or was it Todd Bowley and Christopher Vivell who really got the players? Now, if you remember, Christopher Vivell is their new sporting director since he was appointed in November, and possibly it could be his possible ideology as well. Remember, Christopher Vivell was the one who traveled to Benfica and convince the Benfica management to give Enzo Fernandez in that deal, because it's never easy to negotiate with a club like Benfica, and that's where you feel a manager or a sporting director like Christopher Vivell has played a major part in this. Now, when we talk about Graham Potter's Chelsea, we need to know one thing. Is it just the pressure which has been there? Now, when you talk about the players, it's never easy when you sign a lot of players to make them gel together. That could possibly be one of the major reasons why Chelsea had a horrific time in the Premier League. Remember, when he took over the team, there were players like N'Golo Kante who was injured. There was Sterling who was injured. Aubameyang was out of form. It is never easy for a manager to just take it on. Even Reece James was out for a long while as well. So a manager who just takes over with so many injury scares, it's never easy. And that's where Chelsea really had that horrific run. Now, when he got these new signings, you expect in the Premier League these days a manager should get running as soon as possible. But did Graham Potter do that? Most definitely not. Now, that's been one of the major concerning factors as well as we look into different other stats. Now, what are the ways in which Chelsea can possibly go about it? Now, the future of Chelsea definitely looks like uh, there are good players. Is it about he brings more? It's about Chelsea signing more players in the summer transfer window with a new manager. Yes, possible. But let's look at Graham Potter's record in the Premier League alone. Now, when we talk about Graham Potter's record in the Premier League, we can understand that he managed for 22 games, 7 wins, 7 draws, and 8 defeats. But the telling stat over there is the games in which he failed to score. Remember, Chelsea, after the World Cup, they went on a run where they were unable to score. There were a lot of nil-nil games. They also lost by not unable to score as well. At the same time, conceding 21 goals. They've been conceding from set pieces in the game against Aston Villa, in the game against Southampton. Conceding on set pieces has been one of the major flaws for Chelsea in the recent past as well. Now, these are areas where you really feel Chelsea should have improved, because you have a Thiago Silva there. You have someone like, even to use Badia Shile, he's been improved centre back. And you've talked about Koulibaly, his experience in the back line as well. But Chelsea haven't been able to do that in the recent past. And that is one of the major reasons why you felt Graham Potter's system as well was not shown. There was no identity in which Chelsea played. Usually, when you see a Graham Potter's team, especially when you talk about Brighton, there was an identity in the way in which they played. That was one factor which went missing. And when you talk about midfielders, you got an Enzo, but Enzo was restricted. He was not able to be more robust, going up front, going being more like a box midfielder. That's primarily because he did not have anybody for defensive support as well. That is where you would really want someone like N'Golo Kante to step up. N'Golo Kante, you can say, has had more managers than he has played more full-time games in this entire season. He played under Thomas Tuchel, he played under Graham Potter, and he might play under a new manager as well now. So N'Golo Kante has been injured for throughout the season, so he'll be playing under another manager now. So as you do not have a lot of these managers, it does not really help this team to go forward as well. Let's look at all competition stats of Graham Potter as well, because when you talk about Champions League run, you would say Graham Potter did a very decent job, because in Champions League initially they had a horrific start under Thomas Tuchel. They did lose a couple of matches. Then going to Milan, winning in Milan was one of the highlights of this entire campaign. And defeating Dortmund after trailing down in that tie is also one of the highlights of this season. So if you look at that, all competition stats, 31 matches, 12 wins, 8 draws, 11 defeats, 33 goals scored. But look at the last stat. Now, this is the most scary part for any Chelsea fan or for the club in itself. 31 goals conceded when you've only scored 33. And you have lost close to 11 games in all competition. And that is not a good stat to have. Now you've been knocked out of the Carabao Cup, you've been knocked out of the FA Cup, and those stats in itself tells a story. You've not been able to compete in cup competition, though the team is alive. Even though in the Champions League, that is not good enough. Maybe you can say now they're coming up against the defending champions on Real Madrid. We do not know what is going to happen in that game, but Graham Potter's biggest test was going to be that if he was going to be remaining the manager. Now let's look at another stat as well, because this is a very interesting stat of how Chelsea played, especially when it comes to the non-penalty goals XG. Now, this is very interesting. They took 283 shots. If you look, majority of the shots have been inside the box, but yet unable to convert them into goals. What is the major reason? We've always heard that saying that Chelsea needs a proper number 9. Has Chelsea been able to find that? No, they've signed someone like a Christopher Nkunku. Now that he's a very good signing, but he's going to be only joining from the start of the next season. Joao Felix from Atletico Madrid, he can play as a false stand, but is he that prominent finisher? Not using Aubameyang to full of effect is another question mark. Chelsea's inability to finish, is it the manager whom to be blamed? Because some of the players and their missed chances, especially if you talk about something like Kai Havertz, Mason Mounts, their form has been questionable. Now, of course, you can tell a manager's effect can be seen on any team. We have seen that with Manchester United, how they've really come out as a fighting unit in this season compared to last season against when they were managed by Ole Gunnar Solskjaer and Ralf Ragnick. It's almost similar set of players. But now, if you talk about Chelsea, they've got this squad. They've got this squad. When you talk about some of the best European squads on paper, you have to put Chelsea in the top 5 list, because you got some of the best midfielders out there. You got an immense squad depth. You've got players like Ziyech sitting on the bench. You got Pulisic. You got Sterling. You got Conor Gallagher, who had a phenomenal season last time with Crystal Palace. Now you got someone like a Koulibaly in the backline. Thiago Silva there. Badiashile. But why aren't they unable to score goals? Now, that is a major question which a lot of people are unable to find. Is it the number 9 conundrum? Can Christopher Nkunku solve it next season? These are ifs and buts. Chelsea still needs a proper number 9. With Lukaku and them separating ways, even if Lukaku returns from loan, they would want Lukaku to go off as well. That's primarily because of a lot of things which happen off the field when it comes to commitment and other things as well. Now, Chelsea's biggest hunt is going to be who can be that proper striker for them. Or can they go into a system which can be more fluid, where they don't really need a number 9, where they can be even more fluid. Let's look at the points per game earned by different managers of Chelsea. And that's a telling stat as well. Because if you look at that, among that, you can say one of the lowest is Graham Potter at this stage, and that is also because though you can say Frank Lampard had a phenomenal season 2020 2021, where he took the Chelsea team 1920 season rather, where he took the Chelsea team into the top four. That is an underrated season for a lot of reasons because remember Chelsea was handed over the transfer ban and Frank Lampard with the academy players or players like Reece James coming into the system, Mason Mount coming into the system, he still took them to the top four. That should go down as one of the most underrated seasons in Chelsea's history. Now, if you look at Graham Potter, he's down on that list as the least points earned for a Chelsea manager in this decade as well, in the last 2 decades. So that is not a good stat at all if you're a manager of Chelsea. And if you look at the history of Chelsea, they've had no nonsense when it comes to not giving good results. They've always maintained high profile in terms of getting the right results, going and maintaining a stature for themselves. Remember, under Roman Abramovich, you saw so many managers being sacked when they were unable to get the results. And you're seeing a similar thing which has been followed by Todd Bowley as well. Because ultimately, it's the club's reputation, it's the club's qualification which is in at stake. Now, if you talk about qualification into Europe, Chelsea's chance of winning the Premier League is officially over now. But can they qualify into Europa League or Conference League? These are elements which is still gonna give Chelsea a certain amount of funds going into next season, and that's going to definitely help when it comes to FFP as well. When it comes to showing their books of account, so these are going to be Chelsea's major concerns. Now, the biggest question: who's going to be Chelsea's next manager? A lot of speculation already, as Fabrizio Romano has already tweeted about Nagelsmann being that person who's been considered by Chelsea. Now, how is Nagelsmann going to come to Chelsea? Now, you all remember Christopher Vivell, the name I already told. Christopher Vivell and Nagelsmann has a phenomenal connection from the RB Leipzig days. You talk about Ralf Ragnick was one of the major reasons why he told Christopher Vivell to develop a manager, and that was the young Julian Nagelsmann when he joined RB Leipzig. Remember, he had a phenomenal time with RB Leipzig. A young manager. Remember, Julian Nagelsmann is still 35 years of age. He's younger than Thiago Silva in that squad. So he's going to be getting to work with a lot of these young players. Nagelsmann in itself is a daunting figure. He's a big figure. He demands certain style of play. He demands a lot of the players. You saw how he had a rift with someone like Manuel Neuer, where he believed that Manuel Neuer is not the right keeper for Bayern Munich looking at the future. That respect or that respect or the way in which he conducts is one of the reasons why you might see someone like a Nagelsmann come, an alpha figure in the team to lead these young boys, and that might work in the Chelsea's favor as well. Christopher Vivell's connection could be one of the primary reasons why this team might really look at someone like a Julian Nagelsmann. And you never know, with players like Christopher Nkunku coming in, you got pacey wingers, robust right backs, and robust midfield as well. That could really help the Chelsea team under someone like Julian Nagelsmann. What is Julian Nagelsmann's system like? He plays a 4-2-3-1, or he plays three at the back as well at times. He goes with three at the back. Remember, with Bayern Munich, he had an option with Dilik and Upamecano to go with three at the back. Even with Chelsea, he can do that. He's got the players. He's got players who can play direct football. When you talk about someone like a Luis Enrique, who is also in contention, Luis Enrique's team requires different demands. He needs more of technical players, which is not maybe at the disposal for Chelsea at this point. Now, that is one of the other reasons why Julian Nagelsmann is the prime candidate. He's in Julian Nagelsmann's system. You need fast wingers. You need ball playing centre backs. You need quick ball playing centre backs, and also robust midfielders. You got Enzo Fernandez, who you can unlock when you have a Kante in the back, and you need someone like you need a number 9 who can be effectively used. Remember, for Julian Nagelsmann throughout the season with Bayern, there was Sadio Mane who was injured. There was departure of Lewandowski. The way in which he capitalized someone like Eric Choupo-Moting is a clear classic example of how he can convert a player. Now, when you talk about Christopher Nkunku and his development as a number 9, as a false 9 as well, you have to say Julian Nagelsmann had a major say in that, a major development plan which he set out for Christopher Nkunku, even with RB Leipzig. So you say Julian Nagelsmann knows how to develop players and he knows how to get the best out of players. Maybe once he comes in, he can maybe play Joao Felix in a better position. Now, this all depends if Julian Nagelsmann is going to be appointed this season or at the start of the next season. Remember, for Julian Nagelsmann, there are other clubs also on the hunt. With Ancelotti's ties with Brazil National Football Club, all of a sudden Real Madrid are also interested in Julian Nagelsmann. A lot of European clubs are interested in Julian Nagelsmann primarily because of his ideology of football, his aggressive thinking, the way in which he likes to get results. He's an aggressive manager who likes to play one of the most attacking brand of football in modern day football. So that is one of the reasons why even Tottenham Hotspurs, they are without a manager. after Antonio Conte's sacking, they are looking for a manager, they're looking for a project, and they also were in contact with Julian Nagelsmann as well. Now it is up to Julian Nagelsmann to really take a project up. Does he want to come to does he want to come to Chelsea? Does he want to go to Real Madrid? Or does he want to go to Tottenham Hotspurs? Now, who's another manager who they can go for? There are different names, but maybe possibly the last one on this line is Pochettino as well. Pochettino is another manager who's also linked with Real Madrid and also with Chelsea. But at this point of stage, it is definitely clear with Christopher Wivel's involvement, it could possibly be Julian Nagelsmann who will be appointed as Chelsea's manager. And this looks like a project for a long term because a young manager, a young group of players, an ideology which will definitely suit this team as well. It's all about then getting the results. If they can get the Champions League run right, if they can get past Real Madrid, go into semi-final, you never know what might happen in a semi-final because Chelsea has done that previously. In 2012, when they sacked their manager, they got in Roberto Di Matteo. They went on to win the Champions League. In 2021, where they sacked Frank Lampard, they were in absolute disarray. They got Thomas Tuchel. They went on to win the Champions League. So is this the time for Chelsea to get that one right again? When everything looks completely out of sorts, that's when Chelsea really rises up. Adversity really pushed this team. That's why Chelsea is one of the most unpredictable teams in cup competition. That's what makes them thrive as well. But you need a manager as well. Now it is upon someone like a Julian Nagelsmann if he gets into the position to lead this team, drive this team. Because at this point of stage, as Julian Nagelsmann, if he takes over, he's been having an unbeaten run with Bayern. He's played 8 games with Bayern, and he's only conceded 1 goal at Bayern Munich, and at the same time, he's got 8 victories. One of the high-profile managers out there. If at all Bayern wins against City, and if Chelsea goes on to win against Real Madrid, it could be Julian Nagelsmann and Thomas Tuchel, the two former managers who will lock horns against their former clubs. That's going to be an interesting battle as well. So do let us know in the comments what do you reckon about this appointment if Julian Nagelsmann is appointed the manager, and who, in your opinion, should be the manager of Chelsea, and who do you reckon should depart the club now when it comes to players as well. Thank you for watching this video. This is about it from Chelsea and their possible progress into the Champions League semi-final and their run. And also do let us know your thoughts on Graham Potter's sacking as well. Thank you for watching. Have a good time, all of you.